facilitate that. So please reach out to me. It's Keiko Morris, Keiko Morris, MORRIS at nytimes.com. We do have one opening. It is fairly far advanced, but it's still open. So it is to re-envision our newsletter on politics, and it's pretty substantial subscriber base, and really looking for folks who are going to come and bring something to it, and have a new vision for this newsletter. It is on our site, but please email me and I can also send you the link to that. Thank you.
Hello, one and all. I'm Jamila Bay. I'm editorial director at WHYY in Philadelphia. We are hiring for a political reporter, and we're looking for somebody with at least 5-ish years of experience. We are radio, so if you've got audio editing capacity at all, or if you're interested in learning it, we're very interested in hearing from you. This, of course, Pennsylvania 2024, very big deal nationally, but also the reality is that local Philadelphia politics and the races are historic on a number of fronts. So it's a place to really be able to come and make your mark if you're willing to come and do the work and do all the fun stuff. So as somebody who's just left DC, if you've got a national lead, I'll probably like you. I'm not the hiring manager exclusively. I do have a little bit of say in it. So please make sure you send your resume to me. I'll give my email right now. Very easy. I'm JBEY at WHYY.org. The jobs are listed, I think, on our website. I think they are. But in the meantime, please do feel free to reach out to me if you see me while I'm here. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Katie Millett, and I oversee recruiting at Politico for North America. We are gearing up for a lot of exciting roles going into 2024, as a lot of the teams here are. And in September, we'll be launching our applications for our year-long fellowship program that guarantees full-time employment after you're finished, our internships for 2024, and also our student journalism program, Politico Journalism Institute, which is fantastic. So those will launch soon. We are also looking for a New York City editor, a California politics reporter, and an executive producer of audio. We have those positions on our site now. I'll be at the career booth for the rest of the day if you want to swing by and chat about them or share referral. And then, of course, we'll have more postings live throughout the fall and into next year on our website as well. My email is kmillette, so that's K and then MILLETTE at politico.com. Would love to chat with anyone who's interested about those roles and opportunities, or also other things down the road. Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Victoria Benning. I'm managing editor for Opinion at Bloomberg. I'm looking to hire several political columnists. We are looking for people who have a strong experience and background in political reporting. You don't have to have experience in opinion writing, but if you're at a point of your career where you think you might be interested in switching to opinion, please reach out to me. I will be down in our booth after this, and you can email me at Benning, B as in boy, ENNING at Bloomberg.net. And as I said, we are hiring. I'm looking to hire several people. So if you might be interested, please hit me up. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Darlene Superville. I'm a White House reporter for the Associated Press. And I just wanted to make everyone aware that among the jobs that we are advertising here at this convention is a race and democracy reporter. This is a growing coverage area for the AP, and we're adding a 6th reporter to this beat. And this job can be done from any city in the US. So I will be at our booth this afternoon from 3 to 5 if anybody wants to stop by and talk about it. Two of our reporters who are on this team, Gary Fields and Blayne Alexander, are here at the convention. So you can talk to them about some of the stories they've done, stories they want to do, how the beat works, that sort of thing. For those of you who are not in the room, my email address is dsuperville, that's D-S-U-P as in Peter, E-R, V like Victor, I-L-L-E, at ap.org. If you wanted to reach out to me and I could connect you with someone who plays more of a role in hiring than I do. So it's a race and democracy reporter position that we have open at AP. Thank you.
All right, good morning. My name is Paul Brown. I'm the executive producer of the C-SPAN television network. And so, as you know, campaign season is in full swing, and we are going to be expanding our political unit to not only cover presidential campaigns, but also start to focus more on local House, Senate, and governor races. And so these positions haven't been announced yet, so you all are the first to kind of hear about it, but we will be expanding that unit. So if you are interested, please reach out to me. My contact information email is pbrown@c-span.org. So feel free to send me your resume, just reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to you after today.
All right, guys, I hope you were taking notes. We have jobs, 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 and we are trying to get, increase. That's our mission here. And we paid off last year. I don't think she's here. Elvina's here from Punchbowl News, but Jessica, her colleague, is over events at Punchbowl News. The political task force helped Jessica get that job at Punchbowl News because she reached out and said, I'm interested in this. She told me her background. Punchbowl News reached out and said, we're looking for this. And I said, well, I know somebody. So that's what we're trying to do. We want to continue to make connections. We're going to move on in our agenda. Nolan McCaskill is going to do a little bit of our year in review.
Morning, everybody. All right, so this time last year, a lot of us were in Vegas, where we held our last annual meeting. That was back in August 2022. September, we held a political task force Q&A with Georgia's Democratic Gubernatorial nominee, Stacey Abrams. We had an exclusive virtual Q&A with her. We followed that up in October with another Q&A with some Republican leaders. Same format. Our e-board met for a planning session later that month. We held a general body meeting in February. We had some people, we had a national managers panel at that event. And we recently held a mixer in conjunction with NABJ. I know we're a little behind schedule. We're supposed to talk about plans. So if you guys have any ideas on what you're looking for the next year, what kind of events you want to see from us, any training sessions and other things, just shoot us an email. Double check that. We are at nabjpolitical@gmail.com. Thank you.
Yeah, we're moving quickly because we want to make sure we leave plenty of time for our panel. But we do want your ideas. Again, as we said, we also want you to grow with us. So if you're interested in connecting with us, I do want to tell you guys, we do know one thing we'll be doing in the upcoming year. In January, our plan is to have a symposium all about training us up so that we're ready to meet the moment in a presidential election year. We don't have a specific date yet, but we're in January. I've been people like Kiko's in the room from the New York Times, Politico, we've already been talking to them, Punchbowl. So we're already bringing in our partners to make this a really great event. Again, January, so stay tuned for that. Next, we're gonna have Maria to talk briefly about another initiative we want to launch.
Good morning. I'm so glad to be here. I know some of you have probably received emails from me about being a mentor, but we really want to swing off our mentoring program. So if you have a chance before you leave today, there's a QR code in the back. Click on the QR code. It's also in your agenda as well. You find a little bit about why you should be a mentor. We all know that there's someone in our lives that's impacted us, that has helped us to get to where we are today. So we really want to make sure that we do that for the next generation of journalists coming through. So it's very, very simple. It's not a lot of requirements. It's really just about having an open ear, being willing to share your experience, being willing to meet at least once a month with a mentee. It can be virtual, it can be in person, and hopefully we'll get to a point we can have one yearly retreat with mentors and mentees together. So it's very minimal requirements, but it'll take someone a really long way. So we hope that you decide to do that, along with kind of a little explanation of why it's important. There's a link there where you can fill out the form to put your information in, so we can pair you with a mentee. Because there's so many journalists, young journalists out there that are under 5 years, for those who are in college that really need someone to be able to rely on, listen to them, and help them grow in their field. And if I can just have a raise of hands of how many people are 5 years or more in the field. Okay, most of the room is 5 years or more in the field. So it means most of the room should be able to sign up to be a mentor and give just a little bit of their time to those who are up there. So thank you so much. And we look forward to being able to partner for.
And what I'm gonna do now is I'm adding the link, sign up to be a mentor. I'm adding that to the agenda document, so that again, if you have the agenda pulled up, it'll also be another place for you to find that link. Because I'm all about trying to help y'all help us. So, it doesn't look as, okay, there it is. Sign up to be a mentor. All right, so you should see it there. So we really do. We want you guys to sign up because we want, again, this is in response to what we've heard from our members. Mentorship comes up over and over again. And we know everyone already has a lot on their plate, but we hope you can agree to sign up as a mentor. And my mentor is in the audience, Sonia Ross. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm just saying, it works, because she helps me. So we're gonna keep going on our agenda a bit. So you all see that elections got postponed. I'm gonna briefly explain why. Number one, transparency. We didn't have a lot of interest, and I get it. We're going into an election year. Folks have a lot on their plate, and you guys, a lot of people were hesitant to step up into an elected position on the task force. So we only had one person who submitted a candidate interest form. But in talking with Amir Vera, who's our task force liaison, what we realized was, as you all know, the political task force, we passed bylaws in 2020 to give us structure. And those bylaws implemented term limits for task force leaders. Well, last year, NABJ passed bylaws and operating procedures for task forces. So our bylaws precede theirs, but of course, their bylaws supersede ours. NABJ bylaws doesn't envision term limits for task force leaders. You serve at the pleasure of the president. So in the one candidate that we have, we want to make sure, again, according to the new procedures, making sure what the eligibility requirements are, associate member versus full member, things like that. So we're postponing election. The new NABJ leadership will be announced tonight, I think, after polls close, and then there's a board meeting on Sunday that I'll be attending. And so you'll hear more, but I think the short term is we're not going anywhere. I wasn't going anywhere anyways. I didn't think I was going to be chair, but I wasn't going anywhere. But I'm really not going anywhere now. But again, we need help me pray. I know y'all are praying people, I know you are. So, or if you don't pray, speak to the God, speak to the spirits to say, help me, help Tia University. And, so anyway, thank you. So, if you're interested, you saw that picture in our of our retreat. We do really want more. We want more than 5 people next time. We want 10 people in that retreat. And it doesn't have to, you don't have to live in DC. You do not have to live in DC. I know we do a lot in DC because I live in DC, let's be honest. But we also have had an event in Atlanta. I used to work in Atlanta. So if y'all work in Chicago, come on, so we do an event in Chicago or wherever. Okay, I'm gonna not belabor that point. Does anybody have any questions? Because I preach transparency, so I don't want anyone to not feel clear.
Not about the elections, but about the mentor program. Oh, you'll wait 7 minutes.
No, it's not too late at all. So please, if you want to be a mentee, fill the form out. If you want to be a mentor, fill the form out, and we will make it.
Okay, so it's for both. Yes.
You mentioned Chicago. Did you happen to work there as well?
I don't, but I like Chicago. Yes. We'll talk. Tony says more events in Atlanta. Yes, ma'am, we will talk. Any other questions? Yes.
Given that
Thank you for that question. I think, and what I really want to continue to bring people in. So number one, read your emails. I try not to send too many emails. I know convention week, I send emails because it's convention week. But generally, I try not to send too many emails. Probably my biggest ask is read the emails because I try not to waste your time, but I'll say this is coming up. I'll say this is where we could use some help. And you don't have to have a role. Again, I get it. We are busy. And some people say, I can't have a title. But if you can sign up. Maya's in the back. She's my coworker. She doesn't necessarily want a role, but she will say, where do you need me? And so even that is helpful. And if you have ideas, NABJ Political, we're NABJ Political on X. We are at NABJ Political on Instagram. We are NABJpolitical@gmail.com. Y'all know we have our milkshake website, MSH. It's on there. It's at the bottom of the agenda. It's at the bottom of our agenda. Anyways, Aaron, you have a question from the Zoom?
From Phil Powell, they asked, about the task force. I was impacted by COVID last year. How do we find out the workouts?
Thank you. So Hillary, I will commit to, in the email where we recap, I'll make sure to put where the actual positions are. And just to say it now, we have chair, vice chair, secretary treasurer, which takes the minutes, makes sure to keep up with our money. And then right now we have a social media committee with the chair. We have a membership committee with the chair, and we have a training committee with the chair. But again, we want to expand. I would love to get a newsletter committee and take that off my plate. So we're always open to know where people's time and talents are, and we can use you no matter what. And we'll make sure to put that in the minutes. Any more questions before we move on? All righty, well, I think we are gonna go to our panel. I'm so excited. So Brittany, take it over.
Well, thank you so much. Let me just start by inviting our panelists to come up, take a seat over here. Jeff, Jarrell, Blayne, Laura. Thank you so much for coming. Sorry, let me make sure I'm mindful of the time. Are we gonna be kicked out right at 12, you think?
I don't think, if there's someone coming, it won't be till 12:30.
Okay.
And Mara might not even able to make it.
Well, thank you so much to our panelists for coming. I'll just have you all introduce yourselves if you can. Your name, your title, your organization, and where you're based.
Thank you. Jeff Pegues, Chief Justice, and what am I now? Chief National Affairs and Justice Correspondent.
Good morning. My name is Jarrell Dillard. I work for Bloomberg. I'm a Congress reporter, and I'm based in DC.
And I'm Blayne Alexander. Good morning. I am a correspondent for NBC News, and I'm based in Atlanta.
Okay, so I want to start off the panel maybe a little unconventionally. I'd love if you could tell me about your first role in journalism and a little bit about how you moved from that first role to your next, whether that was a promotion or a change of beat at your organization or jumping to a new place altogether.
I guess it starts with me, so hello again. So I guess I'll start with my first job. I always knew that I wanted to be a reporter, I wanted to be a journalist, and my first job out of school was as a desk assistant at NBC News. So you guys know what that means. I mean, you're literally doing everything from distributing the papers in the morning to, putting in lunch orders for the crews at the White House to answering the calls and routing them where they need to go. But what it taught me was what it looks like working in a network newsroom and kind of seeing some of the best correspondents, in my opinion, in the world, like the Andrea Mitchells and the Pete Williams, and working alongside them. So that was my first job right out of school for about 18 months. Welcome. And then after that, I started on air. So I made my hay while I was there. I was a local reporter in Augusta, Georgia, reporter anchor there for a year and a half. I moved to Atlanta after that. Local reporter and anchor there for 6 years. And then I went back to Washington. I was the White House correspondent and Washington correspondent for News Channel. So for those of you, y'all know who that is. It's kind of the news service, basically, all of the local affiliates. I was doing that for, and then came back to Atlanta as an NBC correspondent in 2019. That's it.
Sorry, if we could just introduce our fourth and final panelist. Sorry, your title and who you are now. And if you could tell us your first job in journalism and a little bit about how you moved from that first job to your second job, whether that was a promotion, change of beat, or jumping to a position.
Sure, and my apologies for being late. My name is Mara Gay, and I'm a member of the New York Times editorial board, where I cover national affairs at this point and New York politics. I'm also a political contributor at MSNBC. My very first job in politics, in journalism, political reporting, was at the Lexington Herald Leader as an intern in Kentucky. And I graduated in 2008, so I've had many jobs since then, and worked in local reporting in New York as a City Hall reporter for about 10 years, really, before about 5 years ago, going to the opinion side of the New York Times.
Well, this is my first job at undergrad. I graduated from Hampton in 2019, and I started at Bloomberg that summer as an intern on the government team, mostly covering Congress. And then after the intern program, I got hired into the rotator program. It's like you go through different teams for about 3 or so months. So I went to the Bloomberg office in New York, worked there while I was going to grad school at NYU. And then in December 2020, after I finished grad school, I came back to DC covering Congress. Originally, I was covering progressive policy, but I recently started on a new beat covering CEOs and global business happenings in the field.
We don't have that much time, so I won't take through the amount of jobs I've had, but I started in local news in Rockford, Illinois. Had to beg for a job. I was believe it or not, because I'm not the biggest guy, but I was a college football player, and I thought, oh, I'll play in the NFL or I'll put it in Canada. And then I started in college and was a starter and played 5 years. But I realized, this hurts. I don't want to be a journeyman, and I need to find something else, and just stumbled past the school TV station. It was a sign for auditions. I walked in, auditioned, and the professor said, "Hey, I think you have a future in this business." And I was such a numbskull. I was like, "Oh, really? You think? What is this journalism thing?" And the rest is history. I begged for a job in Rockford, Illinois, worked there for 7 months, then moved on, which in this business is like getting a promotion. That's how, at that stage of your career, that's how you have to get ahead. And so after that, moved to Dayton, Milwaukee, had a national show in Minneapolis, then Miami, then Baltimore, then 10 years in New York, and now 10 years at CBS. So you'll probably do the math and realize that I'm an old dude. I've been around. But that's my story.
That's wonderful. Jeff, tell us a little bit more about what you just mentioned about moving on to kind of move ahead in your career, take on a role that interests you more, or maybe it's a bigger role. Tell us a little bit about that, and then I want to press the other things as well.
Yeah, you have to be willing to pick up and go. Unless you're comfortable doing whatever it is you're doing at the time, you have to be willing to go out there, look for other jobs, take some risks. That's what I've done. I probably shouldn't say this, but I was at WABC for 10 years, which is a great local station. And I actually had to take a step back financially to go to the network, because I was married at the time, 2 kids. So it caused some issues. But in the end, it was the right thing to do for me. And so anybody who asks me, should I take this job? It's yes. Sometimes it can lead to bigger things. So sometimes you really have to take risks.
I'll jump in. I guess my story is a little different because, I kind of talked about my path. Jumping off of what Jeff said, though, I would say that the biggest thing for me is just kind of being prepared and almost creating positions when it makes sense to, or creating positions when opportunities arise. So when I left DC and became a full correspondent at NBC News and MSNBC, I was down in Georgia. My official title is correspondent. So I'm a correspondent for whatever happens. If there is a tornado in Alabama, I cover that. If there is, the violence or mass shooting, whatever it is, I'm kind of on the coverage breaking news beat. I landed there in October of 2019, and of course we know what happened at the end of February, beginning of March, the pandemic hits. And so then suddenly I'm not traveling, right? Like everything is different, and Georgia becomes the center of the news universe. So from Ahmaud Arbery, I covered that all the way through to, Kent being the first state to reopen Georgia, that became suddenly a political story. Suddenly I'm pressing the governor every day. Suddenly I'm kind of moving into that role. And then of course, 2020 elections happen. And so really my political beat, I'm known, I guess I kind of joke in the network that I'm the Georgia correspondent, the Georgia politics correspondent. It doesn't exist. That wasn't a thing before, right? So it's become this kind of beat and this role that I fashioned out of circumstance, but also being prepared and fully jumping in and owning it and kind of saying, hey, this is what's happening here. I can do a hit on this, or I can do a hit on this, or I can do this, and just kind of grabbing at all of these different things that were happening and really just scraping and making sure that I was on top of it. That was my thing. The other thing is, Atlanta is my home. It's my adopted home. I was a local reporter there for 6 years. So a lot of the people who, like Stacey Abrams, I covered her when she was minority leader in the House and interviewed her as a local reporter, one-man band. So when she became who she was, like I've been familiar with these people for quite some time. So it really was a situation of the world changed, opportunities changed, and I was kind of able to grab on that opportunity and say, this is a new role, and just kind of make that a beat and an assignment.
That's wonderful. And then let's just build on that as well and start with Jarrell. what tips do you have, or, how do you think of preparing yourself so you're ready and open and able to kind of jump on those opportunities when they come up, whether it's a whole beat expansion, moving into Georgia in 2019 is a crazy opportunity given everything we've seen now, or if it's just a story.
I'll start. I'll say in terms of prepping for a new beat, especially on the Hill, I'll say that I was covering progressive policy at first, and when after last year's election and then it came and there was a shift and Democrats were no longer in power, you kind of have to find a way to pivot. So finding those gaps in those areas that you're interested in and filling in stories in that areas, being willing to work outside of your beat. And I kind of found a way to shift that way, like what else are people not covering on the Hill? What else could be useful for the company? So looking at it that way, and when you know that you want a new role, that's a good way to prep yourself, starting to do those stories and then looking at it way like, hey, like I've been doing this, can I make that shift better?
Yeah, I think as local news has unfortunately increasingly become kind of an endangered species in our industry, there's been fewer opportunities for reporters, young reporters in particular, to really learn how to do core beat coverage and really own a beat. I think that's a problem for a lot of reasons, including for our democracy. But I think that is still really highly relevant in art form. And so whatever opportunity you have, politics or anything else, to own a beat, to do that sourcing, read everything, talk to everybody, talk to the community. I think we call it man on the street reporting, but man, woman, whatever on the street reporting, don't lose touch with the communities that cover. I think that's really important. And I just think in terms of, your broader career, taking risks is really important. That's a huge thing. That's been very helpful to me. But also only take a job if you're excited about it. It may not be the perfect job that you want at that time. We all have bills to pay, but none of us went into journalism because we were easier lucrative. So I would really encourage you to aim high. And if you're not excited about it, it's going to be hard to do well, I think, on it. The other thing is, some great advice I got early in my career was to really think through the next year of coverage for yourself on your beat. So, what are 2 to 3 or even 1 to 3 good targets, bigger stories that you can tackle? Because that's what's going to get you engaged, excited, going to make an impact, going to get you noticed. And then when a job opportunity does come along and a recruiting manager says, well, what are you up to? You have something to show people and that you're really excited about and proud of. So that's been, great advice that I've kind of taken. And yeah, that's probably it.
Absolutely. And I just want to say, I really love the sentiment about risk taking stuff out there. And that's why the task force is here as well, our support system for everyone. So I'm going to open it up to questions from the audience. But if there aren't any already, I can throw one more at the panel. Yeah, we're ready. Let's do it. The gentleman in the back.
Thank
you. Oh, and please just introduce yourself.
Right with Maryland Matters. Specific question, and I don't know if anyone else, parent, your parent, how do you handle being a parent going through this we call politics?
Great question.
That's a good question. Listen, earlier in my career as a parent, I was a decent parent, but I was so focused on my career that I let my then wife do most of the work. But now that I'm older, I'm divorced, I have a great relationship with my kids. And I put my kids first. Work comes second. There have been times, as I mentioned in my life, where work has come first, regardless of anything else, which led to anxiety, panic attacks, losing my voice, divorce, just all sorts of issues. So I think it's important that you have your priorities straight. You can do both. You can be really good at work and really good at home. And also take care of yourself, which is something that I was not doing. You can hear it in my voice, it sort of goes up and down. But I found a solution to fixing my voice. Anybody who's seen some of the online social media stuff about me. So you just really have to take care of yourself and the people who are important to you. Work is great. As I tell people all the time, some people think that it reflects unhappiness when I say this in the workplace. You cannot rely on management to provide affirmation. Okay, as I said, I was a football player, and so I was always looking for the coach's pat on the back. I was the kind of kid who cared a great deal about what my parents thought and that they were proud of me. And so I had this misplaced priority when it came to work. And frankly, it nearly killed me. So you can do all the things to make sure that your priorities are straight.
I'll chime in on that. I think, it's interesting listening to you, Jeff. I'm a new parent. My daughter just turned 2 years old, and she's our first child. Thank you so much. One of my favorite quotes, and I always kind of live by in different scenarios, is something LeBron said. I always keep the main thing the main thing. And he's talking about basketball. I'm talking about my family. And so I work incredibly hard, but I do think that I've found a way since becoming a mom to put boundaries in place. So what does that look like? It means, for instance, I have a couple non-negotiables when it's her bedtime, when it's, I had to have this golden period between 6 o'clock, when usually if I'm not live at night read, to about 8 o'clock, where it's like I come home, I spend time with her, we finish dinner, I give her a bath, I put her to bed. That 2-hour span is our time. And people just know, like, hey, Blayne's gonna answer your calls beforehand, maybe I'll text on the side, or I'll get right back to you after 8 p.m. But like that's kind of like our golden time. That means on the flip side that yes, I am up late working a lot because there's that 2 hours that doesn't happen, but I am present with her, and so I think that for me, it's realizing that yeah, some days it's gonna be, priority is work, right? Anybody who follows news knows what's probably going to happen in Fulton County, Georgia anytime soon. That's going to be the focus for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long. But then on the flip side of that, I try to schedule some off time on the backside so I can just be with her, right? Or, if I'm doing live shots to say, okay, I can start at 10 a.m. because I have to take my girl to camp in the morning. So we have that morning where I take her to school. Yeah, you know what I mean? So, and yes, I'll maybe do one later on the back end, but I'm not going to be on TV before 10 o'clock a.m. So those things like that I've tried to do, it makes me more tired. I have to, I have to work to compensate it, but trying to carve out those non-negotiables where I can.
That's a quick follow-up. You mentioned you said don't go on air before 10.
So that's if I can. That usually that happens. Let me say that let me do that very No, I mean we've got today's show. Sometimes I'm up at 6 a.m., 7 a.m. When I can give flexibility. Like sometimes there's a conversation of like, hey, can you do this 8:30 hit? And I was like, well, no, but I can start my hits at, you know what I mean? It's one of those things. If I can. Yes, if I can. Ready to start?
I'm Charles Robbins. I work with television. So I've been doing politics for a long time. And I know that each of you are covering session. I'm wondering, because as you look at the landscape, there will be challenges. And I want to know, what challenges do you see on the horizon coming into the 2024, both at the national level and maybe at the local level, because I can tell you, we're going to have a very Senate race in Maryland for the first time in years. And there are several Senate races across this country that are going to be needed. I'd like to know, what do you see as some of the challenges in making those coverage decisions, and how you? Let's go to the young dude.
Challenges in making those coverage decisions. Well, I can speak from, I cover the Hill, so from that perspective, there's always a lot happening on the Hill, and I think there are a lot of contentious races. I think the Senate is definitely going to be something that's looked at, and the House races too. So I'll say for us, we focus on a lot of those, like you said, like those battleground races. I covered a battleground race last year with Ron Johnson and Mandela Barnes in Wisconsin. You know, Ron Johnson also ended up winning. But I think specifically for us, those are the things that we focus on. Those are the things that we look at, because I mean, the balance of Congress right now. I mean, clearly, of course, we're looking at all these battleground states, states like Georgia, you know, where there's these close races, but also, you know, things going with voting rights. So looking at places like that is important. I think even some of the state house races, I've had the opportunity to cover some things in Michigan as well, because a lot of what's going on in politics right now is happening at the state level. You know, Congress is kind of gridlocked right now. So looking at those races, and then those races also, the laws passed at the state level, kind of, you know, those are what govern elections, and ultimately what governs a lot of our laws.
Sorry, I'm gonna just get a few more questions in too. Alina?
Mine is not a question, more, I just wanted to chime in response to about balancing and for Black people, we not just voters, but a lot of times we have to drive answers to that. One thing that I'm hoping more useful to do, and that we can all is ask for today. And if you have the power, or you have also you have ask for them to dedicate a such a day that does not constitute education. And that's a day you don't have the extra. You catch up with taxes. You see your kids, because you usually don't see in the morning when you're dropping them off to school, or at night when they're tired. And so that's a thing that I'm hoping that I can spread the gospel around, because work never ends, and your own mental health is for the benefit of the company. And that's one good way to teach it, is that I need this day to reorganize myself, to catch up. So when I come back here on Monday, I can give my best.
Add to that real quick.
Sure thing, and then we'll go to you.
You just remarked something I do think should also be a priority. Learning how to say no. You know, because here's the right, Nicole, Killian. Here's the problem. They will try to kill you if they can. Okay. There was a time when I was working 20-hour days straight. 20, like, for 5 years. And I just thought, well, this is the network. I guess that's normal. You know? And as I said, nearly killed me. And here's what I found out about this business over 30 years. I've been in newsrooms where people have died one day. Next day, you do thoughts and prayers, but the news is still going on. And the day after that, the world moves on without you, nobody cares. I've seen that. Sounds harsh, but that's the way life is. So learn how to say no.
But the things too, you won't get consequences for doing it, right? Like you learn that once you kind of say no, you're not going to get fired. I think that there's this thing in my head. I talk about, you know, the balance there. I think it took a long time to get to boundaries, but you're not going to lose your job, you know, if you give a no, typically, right? It's not going to be as catastrophic as you think that it will be. You can do it.
But here's the dilemma. I'm so sorry.
No problem.
I'm not hijacking your panel, I promise. But here's the problem with that, is that being an African-American male especially, you know, you hear words thrown around in the newsroom black man, he's lazy, he doesn't want to do this. And, that's the kind of thing that can kill a career. And that's what I think many of us in this room are always attuned to. Don't call me lazy. When I hear that word from someone, it's like a fight word to me.
Gentlemen,
Hi, Cameron. Stafford, and I'm saying that going into next year, being a president, so many things. Our role is understanding that is there any thoughts that you're to share the opportunities to do a little more now getting so many let me start if you see that as now reporters trying to grow your opportunities not just whether it's various
I'm not really sure I understand the question, to be honest.
it was about, how do you feel about expanding your brand and your contributions as a journalist beyond your main outlet? So, whether you have a Substack newsletter, it's your day job, or specialties on Threads, social media.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Would you speak up a little bit?
Sorry, to put a finer point on that. Traditionally, it's been outlet to outlet, and you all mentioned outlet. But now in this landscape, is outlet to outlet really the only way? Outlet plus having the other thing, especially the amount of.
So let me answer this in a little bit of a different way, because honestly, I'm at a point in my career when I don't really have the space or time to think, let me also on the side do a newsletter. But I think it's a really good question because, let's say, journalism has changed so much in the 15 years that I've been in the business as a professional, and it will continue to change, no doubt. So I actually think it's really important that somehow in between the time with your kids and your auntie duties and your job and all these things that you find time to really think about yourself as your own personal brand. And I don't mean that in like an Elon Musk sense. I mean that in something more meaningful, when you really are thinking about making sure that the work that you're doing, if not day to day, at least year to year, is aligned with who you want to be and what identity you want to have, and also your career and financial goals. And I think that's a really important question. I think there are a lot of entrepreneurial journalists. I work with some of them, from Nicole Hannah-Jones, the magazine, to Kara Swisher, who's a former colleague and friend. And I think those are great models for not just personal aspirations toward making sure that more and more you have independence to decide the kinds of stories and the kind of work you do and how you do it, but also that you may kind of ultimately have your own platform one day. And I think for many journalists, that's the dream. Earlier career journalists may become known through doing work on TikTok, and that's great. I don't know if that answers your question, if that's helpful. Yeah.
I'm so sorry, we're gonna get kicked out of the room in just a few minutes, so I'm gonna just
and
G-A-Y.
sorry, the phone that's muted. I don't know why. Okay.
You can reach me at mara.gay@nytimes.com. And I think just the tip would be to raise your hand, for the beats that are getting out there. Please don't keep it just to race beats, though those are very important. Like, we need Black reporters in politics, we need Black reporters in business desks, and all the rest.
Blayne Alexander, NBC News. You can reach me on email, blayne.alexander@nbcnews.com, or on social media, I'm at Reporter Blayne on any social media platform. I guess my tip would be, let your managers know what you want, right? If there's something that you see that you're like, I can make a dent in this, say, I want to do this, or I want to own this, I want to be aggressive with this, or I want to do this and I want it to be in the show, or I think, sometimes we'll have expectations in our mind of like, well, if I do this work, people will notice and they'll elevate it where it needs to be. I think that saying that explicitly and kind of putting that chip out there is a strong thing to do.
Again, my name is Jarrell Dillard. You can reach me via email at jdillard11@bloomberg.net. I'm on Twitter at Jarrell T. Dillard. My tip, I'm very big on advocating for yourself. Nola makes fun of me because he calls it Gen Z energy. But one tip that I got from one of my mentors, when you're advocating for yourself, whether it be a new area of coverage, a story, or even for pay, he told me, when you go in these rooms, go in as if you were a middle-aged white man. Because they go in with all the confidence, and sometimes we undercut ourselves or undersell ourselves. So that's a tip.
That's a great tip. Jeff Pegues, CBS News. What is my email? PEGUS_J@Viacom.CBS. So that is great advice, because I think most people of color, we weren't sort of trained or raised to go after the jobs that we want. And I came into this business with the attitude being, oh, thanks for hiring. Thanks for giving. No, I'm doing you a favor. Which goes to building your brand. Don't be a show-off. Don't be a showboater. Be a team player. Because the work that you do, if it's good, if the viewers or readers or listeners can see that you have your heart in it, your brand will develop on its own. And then you become what my dad, who's from Birmingham, used to tell me, Jeff, be an owner. Be an owner. Have more control over your future and your income.
Thank you so much. This is a wonderful panel. I'm sorry, but still engaging the task force, reach out to our wonderful panelists, stay connected with our group, and this is a special thank you to our panelists. I'm your chair, and as a little token of appreciation from the local task force. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise. Thank you all for coming and sticking around. Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Pegues, and I'm the social media chair. So if you're not following us on X, or Twitter, or Instagram, we're NABJ Political. And that's also a good way to reach us. And I really would like to promote and, make that another resource for support. If you get a promotion, if you've got a cool story, you're on air, DM it to me. I will retweet it and put it out there. Let's all stay connected. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you very much. That's it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tia. Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Miss Tia.
Thank you.
Thank you, panel.